I'm Dr. Jo Robinson. I'm Associate Professor in Drama and Performance in the School of English at the University of Nottingham. One of the very first sort of big interdisciplinary projects that I did was called Mapping the Moment, Performance Culture in Nottingham, and it was based around 19th century Nottingham, and it was about mapping performance culture across the city over a kind of 10-year period in the 1860s. And when I was starting to think about it, I thought I need a geographer to help me with this, and I met with the person that I thought was going to be the geographer I needed, who was actually a cultural geographer, and he said to me, "You don't need me, you need somebody else who's a GIS geographer." And so I met Gary Priestnell, who you probably might have encountered on this project, and talked to him. And so it was a kind of understanding actually that geography is obviously a multifaceted discipline, and the person that I needed to talk to actually wasn't the person that I kind of had in my head as the geographer that I needed. And it's actually having that conversation. I suppose one of the great things about being in a university like this is that you can usually find your way to the right person, but they need to want to talk to you, which isn't always the case. I suppose it's not helpful if you've got a very fixed idea of what you are wanting to find in a project. So I suppose it's about meeting that person at the right point. So if I'd gone along with that project thinking this is the sort of geographer I need, and then realised that it wasn't, for example, I think that's quite difficult. So I suppose it's about being sufficiently open and admitting that you might not know who it is that you need to talk to or what the right answer is going to be. So I think I suppose my kind of bugbear with interdisciplinarity is when somebody just thinks, I want your concepts, I want your knowledge. It's really not helping you at all. So I suppose it's back to that term synthesis, which I think is really kind of key to successful projects, is actually sharing both ways and not just going and saying, okay, I'll take that concept, I'll take that knowledge and I'll use it for my project. So I just want you, if you're just asking the other person to work for you rather than work with you, then everything goes wrong, I think, or it doesn't get off the ground. I think it comes down to having an open mind, and I think it comes down to investing time in building not friendships but working relationships that do take quite a lot of cups of coffee, probably, in a busy academic environment. Sometimes you just have to take the time to sit and work out, is this somebody that you can work with? Maybe do a kind of small pilot project and then kind of build from there. And I think also recognise if people don't sound very enthusiastic or if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right, and don't then kind of try and force commitment from people who clearly probably aren't going to deliver, because that's also key. So I think it's about trust as much as it is about knowledge. A lot of my research has always been interdisciplinary, even back to being a PhD student, in that I was working on 19th century theatre, but I was working on 19th century theatre alongside thinking about 19th century medical history, history of psychiatry. So I was learning to read medical discourse alongside theatrical discourse and trying to kind of bring those together and be respectful of both of them and to be aware of what I didn't know. So I used Freud, but I was very careful in terms of not pretending to be a Freudian scholar in the PhD. And I think at that very early stage, kind of knowing your boundaries was quite important, using stuff, knowing what you didn't know and being able to articulate that and finding what was useful. And I suppose that's an approach that I've always taken. But as my career's gone on, I've done quite a lot of interdisciplinary research, I suppose, in teams, working with people from other disciplines, which I suppose is a sort of different model of interdisciplinary research. And there, I think I've always been really conscious that it's very important that both disciplines are learning from each other. So the best sort of interdisciplinary research and the ways when it's really worked well for me has been when I've wanted to know something or needed to know something, but the other person has been genuinely interested in my knowledge too. So it's a bringing together of two sets of knowledges that really, I think, makes interdisciplinary research work and be genuinely exciting. The key thing that I would do is spend time thinking about what it is that you're looking for in that interdisciplinary research. What are you expecting that other discipline to bring to your discipline? Part of that is about finding somebody, finding the right person, and part of it is about convincing that person that they want to work with you and that there's genuinely an interdisciplinary interest from both sides of the equation. So I suppose the distinction I'd make is, are you asking somebody to work with you, or are you effectively looking to subcontract a bit of a project for somebody to do because they've got a particular set of skills or knowledge? If you're doing that, then it's probably your research drawing on another discipline, but it's not offering the other person anything that's genuinely interdisciplinary from their point of view. So there's nothing wrong with that sort of research, but it's not, for me anyway, interdisciplinary in the kind of ways that I think this project is interested in kind of exploring. And the other thing I would say then obviously is kind of take the time to get to know the people that you might want to work with, put out feelers around the university in terms of who knows might be the right person, and spend a lot of time talking and getting to know them before you kind of commit to doing the project.